Hey, good morning. This is Warren from Honed by Jones, and it is a Tuesday morning, and I'm here in my garage workshop in Carson City, Nevada. It is a beautiful, warm, well, not warm, but let's call it a beautiful, not cold, sunny day here in Carson City. And I wanted to talk today about farmers market sharpening and a little lesson that I learned from last week. So you're going to hear some noises today because now that the weather, now that it's getting into spring here, we still have a lot of cold days, even some rain, even some snow now and then. But I get to sharpen today with the garage door open, which is something that I don't get to do most winter. So I love it when I can open the garage door and have the sunshine come in. Okay, on to farmers market sharpening. So here's my thoughts. Often when sharpeners talk about what to do at a farmer's market, you have to understand that you're limited. If you've never sharpened at a farmer's market before, you have to understand that you're limited in time at a farmer's market. You're not, the farmer's market itself, now there's a plane going over, so all the noises today. The farmer's market itself that I do, the Reno Riverside Farmers Market, is 4 hours long. So when I say I'm limited in time, it's not the farmer's market length that's the issue. It's that customers don't hang out all the time for 2 hours, an hour, 3 hours at a farmer's market. They show up, they come to get their coffee, they come to get their bread, their produce, whatever else they get at the farmer's market. We also have crafts booths at this farmer's market, so they may be shopping for particular items while they're there, but they're typically not there for a super long time. So I have a window for most people that I'm sharpening for at the farmer's market of 20 minutes, 30 minutes, 40 minutes, 45 minutes at the most is the typical window. Every once in a while, I get people who show up at the farmer's market, they drop off their knives and they say, well, I'm just going to drop them off and I'll be back in a couple hours. But that's not my typical customer. So the point is, when you hear sharpeners talk about working at a farmer's market, they'll often say you have to use quick sharpening machines. So you've got to use something like right here. I've got my Kalamazoo 1x42 belt sander. So you want to use something like that. Right here, I've got a buck tool combo sander. Belt's off of it at the moment, but a buck tool combo sander. So you want to use something like that. You can't see it. Well, you can barely see it in the corner of the frame here. My Tormek T8. So they'll say don't use a Tormek T8 because it's too slow to use at a farmer's market. Don't use a Edge Pro system for sharpening at the farmer's market because it's too slow for a farmer's market. But I'm here to tell you a new technique that I used this last Sunday at the farmer's market, and that is I sharpened slow when it was slow, and I sharpened fast when it was busy. What I did was I set up the Tormek, which is right there, on the front of the table, and the market starts at 9 a.m. It goes to 1 p.m. I'm typically pretty slow from 9 a.m. to 10 a.m. This isn't a set rule, but I'm typically pretty slow from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. Let's try that again. Typically pretty slow from 9 a.m. to 10 a.m. Then from 10 to say 11:30, 11:45, noon, somewhere in that range, 10 to 11:30, 10 to noon range, I'm often pretty darn busy, and then it slows down for the last hour. So what I did this time at the farmer's market is I brought the Tormek and I set it up on the front table and I sharpened on the Tormek from about 10 to 11 a.m. Then when it got busy, I switched to sharpening on my Kalamazoo belt sanders. I did that from about 10 a.m. to noon. And then when noon rolled around, when it got slow again, I went back to sharpening on the Tormek. What was the distinct advantage of bringing the Tormek and sharpening with it on the front table over doing my belt sanders the whole time? Typically, when I'm sharpening on my belt sanders, I'm not facing directly out towards the customers. My belt sanders are set up to the side, and I'm wearing PPE. So typically I'm wearing PPE. I have this mask, this quick release 3M mask that I'm taking on and off. What that means is that customers often don't feel comfortable walking up to my booth and talking to me. Because think about it. If you're a lay person, you're not a sharpener, and you see a dude sharpening, you see a man or woman sharpening on a machine like this, it's spinning at 1725 RPM. Depending on the metal you're sharpening, it may have some sparks coming off of it. They've got a big mask on. They've got an extremely sharp object in their hand. Are you going to walk up and interrupt that person while they're doing that? Some people are. You know the kind of person I'm talking about. Some people will walk up and interrupt anybody, doing no matter what they're doing. But a lot of people will just walk on by if you've got a mask on and you're spinning at 1725 RPM on your machine and you've got an incredibly sharp object in your hand. A lot of people will just walk on by. What I noticed different this farmer's market is I probably had twice as many people come up to my booth, because during that first hour and that last hour, when I'm typically slower, instead I had people coming up nonstop. They weren't necessarily sharpening customers, but they were people inquiring about my business and if they could bring knives or scissors or whatever back the next time they came to the market, because I was now standing at the front of the booth, facing out towards them, sharpening on a machine that's quiet, that I don't have to wear any PPE for, and that I can actually sharpen on my Tormek and hold a conversation at the same time. So it was perfect. It worked really, really well. And what was interesting was the booths on either side. There were obviously booths on either side of me, right? Every time I'm at the farmer's market. At the end of the market, they both said, "Wow, you were really busy today. There were people at your booth all day long. You were super busy." I didn't make any more money at this farmer's market this last Sunday using this new technique of sharpening slow when it's slow and sharpening fast when it's busy. I didn't make any more money. But what I did have is a ton more people come by my booth. So sharpeners have rules. Sharpeners will tell you what you have to use if you're going to do a farmer's market. Do what you do. Figure it out. Figure out what works best at your farmer's market. Figure out what works best for you. There's not steadfast rules. You can do it any way you want to, and I'm trying to figure out the best system for me, and this seems to be the best way to do it. I'll say it for maybe the third or fourth time. From now on, I'm going to sharpen slow when it's slow, and I'm going to sharpen fast when it's busy. This is Warren from Honed by Jones Sharpening Service here in Carson City, Nevada. Thank you for stopping by. Thank you for checking out my channel. Thank you to the people who, I get a lot of messages from around the country, sharpeners asking me questions, who are trying to start a sharpening business. Feel free to message me anytime if you got a question about starting or building your sharpening business. I'm going to be doing 3 farmers markets this summer, so I'm going from 1. I did 1 last summer. I'm going to be doing 3 this summer and still have my home workshop where I'm standing in right now. I'm still going to have that this year. One last thing, I have a Buy Me a Coffee page. If you feel like this information is helpful and you want to support that Buy Me a Coffee, you want to support me by making a donation at Buy Me a Coffee. I'll probably use it for an old-fashioned, to be honest, not for a coffee, because I don't drink coffee anymore. But feel free to donate there if this information is helpful to you and your business. However, if you don't feel like doing that, you don't have to do it. Sometimes people say, well, why are you pushing your Buy Me a Coffee page? I'm not pushing it. I'm putting it out there. If you want to support, you want to support. If you don't, you don't. This is Warren from Honed by Jones, and I will catch you on the flip side. Later.